Good morning. It's Friday, October the 27th, 2017. I am, of course, Stephen Britton, and I am speaking freely. And it's going to be an interesting one today. I don't know how long I'm going to be on the microphone, but I will be on for a little bit anyway. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to touch briefly on the release of the Kennedy assassination records once I get them pulled up here. Because I did come across one thing that I wanted to mention that was rather interesting. For example, one of the things that they were worried about was they were really afraid of missiles. And another one was that there was a threat against Oswald before Oswald was killed. The FBI were actually following Oswald, of course, before the assassination. And there's lots of stuff about Cuba as well. Of course, Castro denies anything, or denied everything. But who knows? But there was one interesting thing that I came across, and I need to find it here. This is an article, this is a memo written by, I think it's J. Edgar Hoover, who at the time was in charge of the FBI. It was definitely Hoover was the guy's name. And here it is. This is just me briefly touching on it. The thing I am concerned about, writes Hoover, and so is Mr. Katzenbach, is having something issued so we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin. So we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin. Convince the public. Now that's interesting. And that's a very interesting choice of words, which is what my wife said when I read that little phrase to her. Her interest in this is minimal. But I did read that because I thought that was rather interesting and a very interesting choice of words. And I'm wondering if that memo will make the conspiracy nuts really start to go apoplectic in the next little while. So there you go. There's one little thing that I found when I wandered through some of the Kennedy assassination files that were released yesterday. But now on to my main topic, and that is no good women. Don't worry, I'm actually going to be a little bit more specific than that, because obviously there are good women out there, right? But I'm going to pull up an article here. And this I found in the Vancouver Sun. It's an article by Daphne Bramham, and her headline is Women's Workplace Advocacy Group Gets Another Male Leader. Now, this was published in September, but I think it's relatively topical. And she writes, seriously? For the second consecutive time, the group that aims to accelerate progress for women through workplace inclusion couldn't find a woman to chair its own board of directors. Now, on the surface, that might seem a little strange. It's a women's advocacy group, so you'd think there'd be more women involved than men. But it's kind of sexist at the same time to suggest that a group that is looking to accelerate progress for women won't hire a guy into a senior position. That's the definition of sexism, is it not? So sexist women's group advocating for advancement of women acts in a sexist way. Or better yet, a group which purports to be fighting sexism acts sexist. Moving on. Late last week, Catalyst Canada announced that Victor Dodig will replace Bill Brown as chairman. I find that very funny. Chairman of a women's group. Dodig may well be a nice guy and all that, since he is CEO of CIBC. He's a clearly competent manager. His predecessor down is also probably a good guy. As the Bank of Montreal CEO, he too knows a thing or two about management. You think? Gee, you think? Really? What a concept. Management. Kind of important. And that is not to say that women are unable to manage. In fact, in a previous life, one of my best customers and one of my most respected customers and one of my most competent customers was the vice president of a company. And she was amazing as a vice president. She did a fabulous job and just blew me out of the water as to her abilities to manage the company that she was managing. But are they really the best people to lead a national organization that is supposed to be about women? Does it really further the cause when there's still a man at the head of the table? It's true that both of their banks have produced admirable policy statements about inclusion, diversity, etc. But if they were actually delivering, why isn't a high-flying female banker chairing Catalyst? Ironically, another of Canada's big banks, RBC, seemed to have no problem finding a woman to chair its board. 4 years ago, Kathleen Taylor was appointed and became the first woman in Canada to hold a role, or to hold that role, at a major bank. Sometimes my eyes get faster than my brain when I'm reading things. It's 2017. Yeah. And we've had a gender-balanced federal cabinet for 2 years without any problem. A gender-balanced federal cabinet for 2 years. Yeah, we've had that. That's true. Without any problems. Have you looked at the state of affairs in this country? It's a mess. Taxes are going up. The deficit is ballooning. The debt is skyrocketing. And we've got a prime minister who cannot seem to find a third world country that he doesn't like to give money to. And if it's an Islamic government, even better. A gender-balanced federal cabinet. You know what? I don't want necessarily a gender-balanced federal cabinet. I want my federal cabinet to be the best people in every position. I don't want to have a prime minister who looks at a person's pants or looks inside a person's pants to see what equipment they hold before ruling them in or out of a role. It's 2017. In fact, this is an even better title for this podcast. It's 2017. It's time to get out of each other's pants. Get out of my pants. Am I the best person for the job or not? If I am, give me the job. If I'm not, look for someone else. Yet not one of Canada's domestic banks, she goes on, has a female CEO or even a chief economist. So what? So what? Of their 43 senior executives, only 9 are women. Again, so what? That's 21%. But those female executives only get 10% of the $214 million in total executive compensation. Well, how many years of experience do they have? Did they take a year off in parental leave? What was their career path? Again, this is just simply looking at numbers and saying and trying to make it fit a narrative. When you adjust for career choices, when you adjust for ability, when you adjust for all the various relevant factors to account for it, this gender wage gap vanishes. It is a myth. So why does Catalyst value bank CEOs so highly? It has been left to Executive Director Tanya Van Biesen to defend Dodig's appointment. This is a real reflection of what we believe, that it's critical to engage men in the dialogue of gender balance to eradicate this problem, she told the Toronto Star. This is not just a women's problem, it's a societal problem. Now that seems like a lot of double talk to me, in actual fact. Because I reject even that premise. This is 2017. I don't think there is a significant problem regarding gender equality. Women have equal access to education. Women have equal opportunity for employment. Women have equal representation and equal opportunity in pretty much every aspect of society. The only major difference between men and women in 2017 is their internal equipment and the fact that after 9 months, a woman might squeeze out a child, which does take a very big toll on her body. And that's biology. If men could get pregnant, I'm sure that 50% of men would choose to get pregnant and let the woman do the thing. But that's not the way the world works, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on what your aversion to pain is like. I'm very happy I didn't have to squeeze out a child. I watched, and it looked painful. Now, to be fair, Dodig's CIBC does better than the average Canadian bank, but he's already been lauded for it as one of the 5 2017 Catalyst Canada Honors champions. Of those 5 champions, by the way, only one was a woman. So what? We're talking about the concept of honoring organizations for including people. Dodig is a member of the 30% Club Canada, which has an aspirational goal of getting 30% women on corporate boards and executive suites and in the executive suites by 2022. Well, you know what? If women are the best, if a woman is the best choice for those jobs, hire them. If they're not, then we're not. Then they're not. At CIBC, 3 of 11 senior executives are women, and its 17 board member has 7 female directors. Hold on a minute. CIBC has a higher percentage of female board members than Catalyst does. Catalyst 19 member board has only 7 female directors. That might be part of the problem. No. You know, I'm going to skip down a bit because this is starting to really annoy me now. Oh, and it goes on. Obviously, having male allies like Dodig and Down in a long struggle for women's equity is important and beneficial. Their advocacy among male colleagues is invaluable. Well, what about my advocacy? Is anything I've said today advocated against women getting high-powered careers? Of course not. I'll move that ad off the screen. And there's another ad below me. What do you know? According to the here we go. According to the World Economic Forum's 2016 Gender Gap Report, Canada ranks 36th amongst 144 countries when it comes to economic participation and opportunity, even though Canada is first when it comes to educational attainment. Yay for us. And I'm serious. Good for us. Good for Canada. By declining to lead by example, Catalyst is failing all the Canadian women who are doing what they've been told will lead to success. They're getting an education, and they are working hard. Yet they're still not anywhere close to reaping the rewards and the jobs that their male colleagues do. What a load of crap. There is no hidden old boys club out there. There is no secret cabal of men refusing to hire women. If there was, you'd think we'd know about it by now. The failure to reflect its own values also dilutes Catalyst's message, and the one that Dodig champions. Gender diversity leads to better decision-making, stronger financial performance, and increased motivation. Well, maybe it does. I'm not going to argue that point. But simply hiring a woman at the expense of a better qualified man does not improve a corporation. Hiring, if all things being equal, a man's qualifications and ability to do the job are equal and equivalent to a woman's qualifications and ability to do the job, then perhaps gender balance within the workplace might, and I stress might, be a factor. But that is a highly unlikely occurrence. The reason that would be highly unlikely is because as a hiring person, sitting down, having a job interview with someone, you get a gut feeling on them. We've been told before that a hiring decision is made within the first 30 seconds of a job interview. I believe it. And the person sitting across the table makes that decision for themselves in how they conduct the interview. I'm talking about the candidate now. So the chances of all things being equal, the hiring manager's got a gut feeling about a woman and a man, and he doesn't know she or he doesn't know who to choose, the woman or the man. It will probably, at that point, come down just to base gut instinct. And you know what I would also bet? In a scenario such as that, if the manager is female, she'll hire the woman. And if the manager is male, he'll hire the man. But that's in a situation where it is a clear and absolute 100% level playing field between two candidates where the only difference between the two is their gender. And frankly, as I said, that is an extremely highly unlikely situation. But here's something to think about. Maybe the reason that this organization can't find a woman to lead it is because maybe the organization isn't necessary to begin with. You know, if you can't find a member of your target audience, you're probably not necessary. You're probably redundant. And that's a thought for him. So to sum up, hire the best candidate for the job. Do not in any way, shape, or form consider their gender. Man, woman, they each get equal opportunity. Do not hire a woman over a man because she is a woman. That is sexist. Do not hire a man over a woman because he is a man. That is also sexist. And since only a very tiny percentage of people consider themselves feminists in 2017, maybe the entire feminist movement needs to look at whether it is still needed. There's no reason to define yourself by your biological equipment. That applies to men and women equally. So that's it. I'm Steve Britton. It is Friday, the 17th of October. And I'm wrapping up. So if you like what you hear, I am available on Facebook. The page is Steve Speaks Freely. You can find me on Twitter, SC Britton, BRITTON. You can find me on minds.com. Same address, SC Britton. You can find me on Patreon, of course, SC Britton. I did that on purpose, so I'm easy to find. Of course, over on minds.com and Patreon, the option exists to subscribe and send me a little bit of cash my way once a month, if you choose. No one's going to force you to. I'm certainly not, but I'm going to mention it. If you like what you hear, you can become a subscriber. There are a couple of perks that I send your way if you do decide to subscribe. You can give as little as $1 a month. You can give as much as $10 a month, or you can choose to split the difference and go at $5. And if you do, you will have my eternal gratitude. Over on minds.com, of course, you can also wire me some points. That helps me advertise the show to people. But this tri-weekly podcast is an audio-only feed, and it's typically always free. This one's always going to be available. And if you, as I said, if you want to get some more of the more in-depth stuff and go beyond the paywall, so to speak, that is your choice as well. It's all there. So with that, I'm going off to do some other stuff. Try and get the one of these things finished to get it up and online. And I'll talk to you Monday.